Nigeria set to deepen bilateral trade cooperation with the People's Republic of China. Federal government inaugurates steering committee on food systems transformation pathway in Nigeria. Oil prices extend losses on fears of recession and a slower oil demand. Plus, copper prices extend losses on Friday as Muslims celebrate Eid Fitr. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. I'll start by saying Eid Mubarak to our Muslim brothers out there, and as we celebrate, we think business. And to start with, the Chinese government has designated the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, NEPC, as the competent authority in Nigeria for goods and services general administration of Chinese customs of exportable products from Nigeria to China. Executive Director, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Ezra Yakusak, disclosed this in China during matchmaking of some leading Nigerian and Chinese agri-business players in Hunan, China.
The Council as a competent authority for the issuance of the general administration of Chinese custom. What that means is GACC. What that means is that before you export goods to China, you must register on that platform. It is NEPC that process that application and make recommendations to the Chinese authority for them to accept or approve.
On the logistics, there is huge investment around the logistics area. It wants to see how do you move your goods through railway? How do we include China Import-Export Bank into this financing? It wants to see more trade line going into domestic bank and Exim Bank. By next year, we should be able to see how do we attract a minimum of, let's say, $5 billion into Nigeria export market space.
Besides the general administration of Chinese customs in Nigeria, the NEPC will ensure that all overseas food manufacturers and processors comply with the Chinese import policies. And similarly, the Nigerian Export Trade House will deepen bilateral trade cooperation between Nigeria and the People's Republic of China. Executive Secretary, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, gave the indication in Hunan, China, with the assurance to increase Nigeria's revenue base in the domain. This is sequel to the inauguration of the 8,000 square meter warehouse with a holding capacity of 6,000 metric tons of agri-commodities in Gangsha, Hunan Province. Comfort Amadou reports from Hunan, China.
Nigeria and the People's Republic of China have been collaborating to strengthen both countries' economies and leverage foreign direct investment opportunities to expand business in Nigeria and China markets for a steady economy and forex inflow. This renewed alliance has birthed the establishment of the Nigerian Export Trade House in Changsha, Hunan Province, China, with the shipment of more than 20 containers of ginger and sesame seeds valued at $1.3 million to kickstart the operation of the trade house.
China was third on the top 10 non-oil export performance of about 375 million US dollars. And there is need for us to curb that trade deficit by introducing the export trade house.
To seek for the expansion of those goods that's on protocol list between China and Africa, particularly Nigeria.
We hope to work with Nigerian embassies in China and the relevant institutions to work on all fronts, for example, to set up overseas warehouses on both sides and other long-term economic trade investment trade cooperation so as to achieve mutually beneficial and win-win results.
We can do much more by taking advantage of the FOCAN framework on trade and investment promotion. Especially, it is now abundantly clear that Nigeria is an important trade partner to China.
The Nigerian Export Trade House in Hunan Province is expected to increase the visibility of Nigerian products in the People's Republic of China, considering its prominence in the Asian continent. From Changsha, Hunan Province, China, Comfort Amadu.
Now, a 20-man steering committee on state implementation of the food systems transformation pathway in Nigeria has been inaugurated. The committee, amongst other things, is saddled with the responsibility of providing leadership for the implementation of all the 78 recommendations that will serve as game changer to Nigeria's food systems, from the farm to the fork and finally to waste. Already, the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, which is the coordinating ministry, has constituted a multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder implementation task team, including all relevant stakeholders and development partners, to serve as a think tank for effective implementation of the program. The committee, chaired by the Minister Clem Agba, has co-chairmen and members from government agencies in charge of economic planning, agriculture, as well as some stakeholders from non-governmental organizations, development partners, and the private sector. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, says African Continental Free Trade Area, that is the AfCFTA, increased trade between countries in the region by 20% at the end of 2022. The economy watchers say the level of trade had increased, but not up to its target. What are those hindrances to maximizing the agreement? Our attention on the program today is on issues around the AfCFTA, and our guest is Andy Ekwelem, a commodity analyst and Director General, Rice Processors Association of Nigeria. You are welcome to Business Express.
Thank you, Adams, for having me.
Good. Let's take a look at the African Continental Free Trade Area. It's been a long time coming. We hear some countries have started trading, though Nigeria is yet to start actual trading. What's the possible benefit for Nigeria in this market? Let me give a tidbit. We are the largest economy in Africa. We have the largest population. And possibly, just tell me the advantages.
Well, Adams, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and area, it's a huge one for Africa. It had potential for massive benefit for Nigeria. I don't know what Nigeria is benefiting now in terms of trade, but I know that with time, if we're able to put our acts together, we will derive enormous benefit from that agreement. You see, Nigeria has the potential to export a lot of things to our African neighbors. I remember growing up in Aba those days, people come all the way from Benin Republic, from Niger Republic, from all over the place to buy footwear and textiles from Aba, from our area. Right now, we have the rice industry that has grown so enormous that if we key into that agreement, we'll be able to export rice to other parts of Africa, especially our neighbors within the West African region. So the benefits are there to tap into, but for now, I don't know what we are benefiting.
Well, you raised a concern there. You said there is so much for us to benefit if we get our acts right. What is it that we are not getting right, in your own opinion, and what should be the way to go as a way of suggestion from your end?
You know, we know that the idea behind the African continental free trade area is to grow, develop trade within the African continent for African countries. We have about 55 members of this agreement, and it's important that we play the game the way those who conceived it had planned it. For us in the rice processing subsector, we have a challenge, and that challenge is that we have neighboring countries who allow import of finished rice from Asia to come into their countries, and then for onward trade into Nigeria. And I am sure and I know that the African Free Trade Continental Agreement stipulates that we have to play with products that originate within the African continent. But when you allow countries to bring in from Asia, from Europe, products that are not of African origin, and not just bringing it, you don't use it within your country and then you allow it come or go into other people's economy, it's detrimental to other. To look into the activities of these countries that allow import and then allow the import to leave their countries and come into Nigeria to distort our economy. It's important that we look at in that direction and then find a way to harmonize and make sure that people play by the rule of the agreement.
Well, to a large extent, I think at this point it will be a piece of information which I'm privy to, talking about the rules of origin. For many years, that we've had a trade within the sub-region and even outside the region, talking about with Europe and all of that. Nigeria had not had a definite trade policy, but the present administration under the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment has ensured that Nigeria has got a trade policy now. I think it's going to just go through the Federal Executive Council for it to be approved. But before that comes on board, talking about the rules of origin, part of the agreement is a certain percentage of products should be produced in country. I think between 40 or 45%. I can't lay my hands on the figure, but I think it's 40%, where even if we have manufacturers from China coming to Nigeria, they are not coming to Nigeria with already made products. They are coming to set their factories here. They are coming with expertise. Then they are going to get the bulk of the raw materials from here, do the packaging and sell from here. Aside these experts bringing in technical know-how, how ready is the Nigerian market for this? Let's take, for instance, your own constituency, talking about the rice farmers, the rice processors. Yes, so much has been invested in the rice value chain, talking about the Uncle Bolowa's support and all of that. Talking about private investment in this area, how ready is Nigeria to take over this market in terms of agro products?
Nigeria is very ready. You can see what we are doing in the rice processing subsector. We are feeding Nigerians. We are encouraging farmers to go into the farm and cultivate more, like you said. If you listen to my press conference the other day, it's obvious that during the 2020-2021 COVID era, Nigerian farmers were able to produce between 8.2 million tons to 8.4 million tons in 2020 and 2021, which to say that they are ready to produce what we will eat. Now, let me draw your attention to something. You talked about 40% contribution to the rules of origin. Yes, the rules of origin, if I remember rightly, says that, for instance, in Nigeria, our policy is you have to be 60% local content. And that 60% local content includes not just raw material, includes labor, includes some other things that enable production. Yes, of course, you can come with the expertise, you can come with the machinery, you can come with other things. Some other things are also that enable, which allows for 40%. But in some countries outside Nigeria, you have just 40% local content, and then they bring in 60%. That's not just the issue. The issue is that sometimes it is not about 40%. Sometimes they allow complete import, fully processed, packaged import into their country, and then allow it to be dumped into a larger economy because maybe there are porous borders, because maybe there are laxities on behalf of those who are supposed to man and stuff like that. But then, let me go back. In the agro-processing, the agribusiness subsector, Nigeria is ready to take full advantage of the continental free trade area. Because, look, from what we produce, what is the population of our neighbors? From what we produce, we can feed Nigeria. And then, because we have a seamless trade relationship with our neighbors, we could as well go there, get raw material like paddy, process it and send back to them. That's part of the idea. If they don't have the processing facility, if they don't have the value-adding techniques to package and sell, we can move there, pick up some of this raw material, process it and send back to them. We strengthen them, they strengthen us. And it's a win-win for everybody. Our challenge is do not allow, and just like you said that the Ministry of Trade and Investment, yes, have just developed a trade policy. They should make sure that the trade policy makes it clear that there will be consequences when a country allows import into its country and then allows it to be dumped into our country. It's going to affect us. It might not affect them. It's going to affect us. Look, we have what do you call it? We have paddy rice here. They can grow, we can pick up, we can process, we can send back to them. Some of them in the West African sub-region don't eat parboiled rice, they eat what they call white rice, the unparboiled one. We can make that for them and send to them. We train them, we partner with them, we collaborate with them in the area of producing paddy, and then we offtake. And then we send back to them so that they have enough to eat. The economy is stable, ours is stable, so that the spirit of the African free trade agreement will stand, and everybody within the Africa. Remember, the idea is to target about 15 million jobs within the African region. Remember, the idea is to grow the African economy. So we should not allow other countries to sabotage it to the detriment of our economy, to the detriment of our country, because we have a lot to lose. We have a growing population, mostly made up of youths that need something to do. So when you allow them to do this, they export jobs, and we have our youth here idling around and then begin to go into crime and all sorts. You look at the trend. A lot of boys, a lot of youths are trying to leave the country. Why? Not because we don't have what to do or how to, because we have neighbors sometimes who sabotage the effort of the federal government. So these are the things our government will have to look into and address and take a firm stand. You see, one of the good things I take away from the current administration is that one time in the history, the Mr. President took a firm stand and said, look, close the borders. If they don't want to adhere to being responsible, close it, let's see what happens. And we saw what happened. Nobody died. Our economy grew. Go and check the indices. Go to Bureau of Statistics. Within this period, there was so much production in the food sector. People were not angry.
Mr. Ekwelem, let me pose your thoughts at this point. I want to agree with you that we have moved towards self-sufficiency in terms of rice production, but it seems this particular commodity is defying the rules of demand and supply, where it states if you have so much supply, then demand prices will crash. But if we're having sufficiency and yet affordability is an issue, talking about rice, then there is something that needs to be done in that direction, in the sense that rice, when it used to be smuggled from Benin Republic, used to be cheaper than what we are producing today. Why are we having this commodity at a high price today?
Go down history lane. In 2009, when all this started, in 2009, 2010, and 2011, rice was selling for between 6,500 to 7,500 naira. How much was paddy at the time? Paddy was in the neighborhood of 4,500, 5,000 naira, 450, between 45 naira to 50 naira per kg. As we grow, we have seen how inflation has impacted on the economy, not just in Nigeria, worldwide. You know, the COVID pandemic brought its own challenges. What has happened is that as inflation affects cost of production, prices definitely will go up. But I keep telling people, even though prices are going up, look at the price of rice, finished rice. Look at the percentage increase in the price of finished rice. That has been one product that remained stable, not more than 10% in increment. Compare it to other products, other food items in the marketplace. Check.
Mr. Andy Ekwelem, for want of time, we want to appreciate the efforts of rice farmers, rice processors. I think all the dealers aid the value chain for your contribution. But on behalf of Nigerians out there, we continue to advocate for better pricing, for affordability for the common man in Nigeria, because rice is actually a staple food. It's something we love to eat every day, particularly today that is a festive day, talking about the Salah celebrations. We'll get to talk about this more and more. Thank you so very much for sharing your thoughts with us at this time.
Thank you.
Moving on, the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, through the Industrial Training Fund, is partnering Rohde & Schwarz in Germany with a view to sharing technical expertise, equipment, and internship support for improved skills for industry in Nigeria.
Of industrial clusters coming up, a lot of manufacturing entities that really have to retrain, new graduates that are coming in. And we keep talking about how to bridge that gap between the young graduates and the world of work, so that not too much time is spent on retraining a graduate, so that these graduates come into the world of work with as much skills that are required as possible.
And the ITF primarily was set up to develop the nation's human resource through the equipping of the citizenry with requisite skills for employability and entrepreneurship. And so we found a ready partner in Rohde & Schwarz. And this partnership to us has the potential to bring a lot of benefits and gains, not only to the Industrial Training Fund, but to Nigeria as a country. It will deepen our search for well-equipped population. It will equally place Nigeria on the path of aggressively addressing the menace of unemployment, restiveness, and poverty.
And at the end of the day, it should be a win-win situation for both parties. On the other hand, Rohde & Schwarz wants to train, together with the ITF, the youth of a big number of Nigerians to become potential employees of Rohde & Schwarz in the future.
Oil prices eased on Friday, extending losses from the two previous days and heading for a weekly decline as softening U.S. economic data and a rise in the U.S. gasoline inventories raised concerns about a recession and slower global oil demand. Brent futures were down some cents to trade at $80.96 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude slid at 12 cents to $77.25 a barrel. Both benchmarks had slid by more than 2% on Thursday to their lowest since the unexpected announcement in early April of production cuts by some OPEC countries, and remain on track for a weekly drop of about 6%. Let's see the prices of other commodities in the global market. That wraps Business Express for the week. Remember to keep in touch, send in your comments, observations and suggestions as we resume next week with a fresh edition. I'm Benny Adams saying enjoy the Salah festivities.